Speaking of candidates who do have a clear position on fast-tracking the TPP, New Hampshire is feeling the burn. A new Suffolk University poll out today has found that Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is closing the gap with Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire. He's now polling at 31% to Clinton's 41% among likely Democratic voters, and is actually tied with Clinton at 39-39 among self-described liberals. So is this an anomaly, or could Bernie actually win this thing? And let me just add to that, Americans, Bernie's completely transparent about all of his positions. They haven't changed in 35 years, and they're all at berniesanders.com. And for example, he said the Progressive Change Institute recently found that among likely 2016 voters, 75% support fair trade that protects workers, the environment, and jobs. 71% support giving all students access to basically debt-free college education. 71% support a massive infrastructure spending program aimed at rebuilding our broken roads and bridges and putting people back to work. 70% support expanding Social Security, not contracting it. 59% support raising taxes on the rich so that millionaires pay the same amount in taxes as they did during the Reagan administration. I roll back the Reagan tax cuts. 58% support breaking up the big banks. 55% support the financial transaction tax. 51% support single-payer health care. I mean, this is of all Americans, and including a lot of Republicans. And I remember living in Vermont during the 2000 election and driving through the Northeast Kingdom, the most conservative part of the state. It's like the red part of Vermont, and seeing in house after house after house, George Bush for president, Bernie Sanders for Congress. Signs out in the front yards. Can Bernie pull this thing off? What do you guys think?
I would say probably not, but I think the reason why his poll numbers are going up is the same issue with the TPA. Is there's a lot of the left-wing base is seeing their leaders not following what the message that they want, that they're going to go for these trade acts. They're not going to represent, they're kind of moving towards a little bit right on economic issues. They're not representing their own interests. And it's more of a kind of protest to kind of support Bernie Sanders. I don't think he is really a serious chance. His whole candidacy is basically pushing Hillary. And I think when you look at the poll numbers, that's basically an indication from the voters that they want Hillary to move left. They want her to condemn TPA. They want her to come out against this trade deal. So I don't see him as a serious candidate, but I think his message is serious.
Well, I disagree with you there, Scott, because we had that same issue with President Barack Obama, or then U.S. Senator Barack Obama, where people thought he wasn't a serious candidate and he wasn't going to win. Right. He obviously did pull it off, but he is now the president of the United States. But on Bernie Sanders, he is the anti-Hillary candidate right now, and people want to have somebody that they can support and put their values in, and he's the guy. And he's also the only announced other than Hillary Clinton candidate.
Yeah, and Bernie's actually polling better right now than Barack Obama did in 2007 at this point.
I think what the campaign that Bernie's running is incredibly exciting. I'm not surprised. I spent some time in New Hampshire that New Hampshire voters are gravitating towards this message. What's really exciting to me is not only is Bernie surging in New Hampshire, and you're starting to see some of that in Iowa as well, but that is having the effect on Secretary Clinton and all the other candidates in the race, where they're all starting to advocate for similar positions. And as you showed, the real difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party is that when Democrats follow their base and follow the left, they actually get onto winning issues. Right. Whereas when Republicans do it, you see Donald Trump talking, this anti-immigrant, rhetoric that is only going to lose them the general election. The good news here is that the progressive message and the progressive issues that Bernie wants our party to be standing up for are winning messages for Democrats across the country.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that there's actually a chance, and a not unreasonable chance, particularly if we slide into a recession over the next 6 to 12 months, that Bernie Sanders could win the Democratic primary and could even win the White House.
That's a fair point, because she's been getting attacked, and all these scandals that are being attached to her, they're going to look for somebody to be the candidate to walk up and take it on. So he seems like he might be
It's like every 80 years
we
reboot this country. It's 80 years ago it was the FDR election. 80 years before that it was the Abraham Lincoln election. 80 years before that it was the Revolutionary War. It's like every 80 years there's just this major reboot.